clarify the law for us. Well, it's the same thing as when, who the hell was it? Who sent the blankets to the Indians up in Montana?
Spain?
That was Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln sent a bunch of diseased blankets to the Native Americans up in Montana under the guise to help them, and they gave them all, I think it was smallpox that were in the blankets. It made them all sick. So this is a similar version of that they're trying to do to us. With these 4 bills, the first bill we'll talk about is HB 4834. If you look at it, what they're trying to do is allow our information, our medical information that we're patients and caregivers, to be accessible via the lien system. Now, anybody that's not familiar with the lien system, that's a system that we have in scout cars, and it's portable. It's fairly portable. You just punch in a certain codes, and then that'll tell you, you know, who, if you're stopping somebody, or you want to check out this car, you run the plate number first, and then you can run other codes to see what's associated with that car, or who's associated with it. And it's a good system from a cop's point of view to know that, you know, if you're going to go stop a car, if it's stolen, if it's not. But it can also be abused, and it's been abused tremendously over the last couple of decades. There's been several cases of, I think, a gal in Wisconsin. Cops from all over the state were accessing her photo on their Secretary of State website or through the lien system just to see how hot she was, because she was supposed to be the hottest chick on a license in Wisconsin. So the point is they abuse it for minor stuff like that. And when I was a police officer, I can assure you it was abused. I can, you know, there's a number of ways they can do it. And you can, as a police officer, when you do access the lien, you know, it does leave a record of what you did and what you were accessing. So, but the only time those things get brought up is if you screw up or you do something crazy, and then they go check and see what everything you've done. So my point on that is, by allowing law enforcement to have access to our information via the lien is a bad idea. It's a bad idea, because what they'll do then is they'll just start using that to go ahead and just run random checks on our addresses, run random checks on us, and then use an excuse to get over to your house and then come and see you and do what isn't even legal right now, and try to do a compliance check.
Yeah, I don't know how that isn't a violation of our HIPAA.
It is, but they're trying to bypass all this through the legislative process, and with the current hostile legislators we have up there, they're all just saying, hey, it's just the pot smokers. You know, I went to a hearing that Senator Jones was having on removing glaucoma from the list of qualifying conditions. Now, anybody that's familiar with glaucoma and cannabis, that's the one disease that's been verified to help. There's the studies, everything's there to support glaucoma being a qualifying condition. The reason that Rick Jones wanted to get glaucoma knocked out of there was because if he can knock that out, he can knock out everything else. So when we showed up there, it was only myself and a glaucoma patient that went up there to oppose him. And they had the deck stacked. They had ophthalmologists, they had glaucoma specialists from Michigan State University, and they had all these freaking doctors who should have just been working for the Nazis, because one doctor says, well, it's only going to hurt 500 people. But what does your hypocritical oath kick in at 501? Yeah. You know, only 500. And they kept saying this, and it was almost like they were in cahoots with Rick Jones to get these passed out of committee. And so what ended up happening was, by us showing up and opposing this introduced legislation, we at least got the Democratic senator, who was Bida, to not vote with the Republicans. So they didn't get a unanimous bipartisan vote on that, and we stopped that. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is because there's been people encouraging people not to go to Lansing and lobby. I'm here to tell you, you're going to have to lobby. You're going to have to talk to your senators, because if we don't, we're in big trouble. This package of bills, if it passes, it's going to be a real negative on us, but then it's going to have some positive impacts for, one, dispensary owners, and it's going to have good positive impacts for attorneys, because now more of us are going to be in trouble because of stupid laws they're passing. So, point is these bills are bad, but the first one, going back to the lien thing, is that's just bad. That's just a bad idea. Then it also, the feds also have access to the lien system. So with them having access to it, it's illegal under their eyes. So they could, you know, it's just this is just a setup for catastrophe for patients and caregivers. So on here, MPP puts their position on here about why they oppose it. I'm telling you why I oppose it on a very real you know, very real scenarios there, because that's how these things get abused, and this is how we'll get in trouble, is by allowing this stuff to be accessed by law enforcement via the lien network. So make sure that you read some of this stuff before you talk to your senators and have a clue about this. Now, I did talk to, when these package of bills were introduced, let me have to rewind this a little bit. Senator Horn, I think was his name, or it was Representative Horn, and Kavanaugh had a meeting over at one attorney's office to discuss this package of bills. This was months ago. So they asked me to come to the meeting. I go to the meeting, and they were not prepared for the two reps. The reps came there to do some business. We had just had a freaking smoke down. Nobody had the goddamn paperwork except for the one attorney and the two reps, and the rest of four of us were sitting around with our thumbs up our asses. Poorly organized. We looked like crap when they sat down with us that very first day. So we were supposed to be the sharpest of the book, whatever we were supposed to be, and here we were, a bunch of clowns. So from that point on, when these package of bills started going through, these same people were going to Lansing and advocating for us. And when I say they were advocating for us, they had invited me to one of the meetings, but in order to be part of the group to go to the meetings, you had to give them $100 a month to be in the club. I live on a pension, so I really can't give you $100 to be in your club, which I should have did, because their club just got us screwed, because now when the legislators talk about this package of bills, they say, well, we did it with the patients and their advocates. They're leaving out the part, the ones that could afford it, you know, because, you know, just to get to Lansing is somewhat expensive, the way gas is, parking fees, time you do your day there, you spend $50, $60, and that's, you know, that adds up after a while.
Next time, contact us.
Regarding?
Funding.
Oh, yeah, well, things are better now, but just kind of giving you a little bit of history about these bills. So, back to the HB 4834 bad bill there in terms of lien access. They'll be showing up at our doors knocking and one of this. And now there's also, the other problem with this is the Supreme Court has ruled last year that the smell of marijuana is enough to get a warrant to raid your house. Actually, they don't even have to get a warrant now. They can do an extradited circumstances to go in your house if they smell pot. So if they do a lien search and they say, there's a caregiver there, let's go. Oh, I smell pot. And they come. So with that in mind, just know that this is why it's so important. That's why I gave you a list of the senators and all this that's going on. Keep that in mind.
When is this going to be
we got to get on this now.
So
this should have already been discussed throughout the community, throughout the state.
But I mean, like, when are they voting on
It's
this?
through the House.
It's already through the House.
Senate.
This is going now. We have to. I mean, this could be voted on
We
next
gotta
week.
start
It
tomorrow.
could be voted on the week after.
Okay.
As soon as the Republicans feel they got the Dems in their pocket, then they're going to make the vote. So. No, they haven't. But I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do here, because I don't trust them. I don't trust them one bit up there. They're not here to help us. So going back to what I was talking about, just make sure that when you talk to your rep, you're going to make sure that you're opposing the access by lien. Now, I found out an interesting thing too while looking up this whole lien system thing here, that people, if they have your name and your date of birth, you can call up there and they'll tell you whether you're a patient or a caregiver, and you don't even got to really be from law enforcement. They're doing that now.
Call up
It's a
where?
violation of HIPAA. $70,000 violation per
Well,
occurrence.
then the state's doing it right now. So that this is reality. This is what's going on. But none of this is getting talked about on any of the lists. And it is my feeling that there's certain people, like I said, that want these to go through so they can benefit. Because coming behind this package of bills is a dispensary bill. So my feeling was that the people that backed this legislation, supposedly from our side, backed this legislation with the idea of the dispensary bill coming in. We'll give you this. Well, they'll give us to them if they get the dispensaries.
Yep.
So that's at least my observation on this. The next bill we want to talk about is HB 4851, and it's the bona fide patient relationship, physician-patient relationship. If all of you, by now, I'm assuming most of you have been patients since the law, or caregivers since the law was enacted, you should have a pretty good working relationship with your doctors. If you are going to the clinics that, you know, just popped up to just service the community, which that was a necessity, by the way, when they popped up. They were, because our doctors were not writing them. I belong to an HMO and to HAP, as a matter of fact, and their doctors are not authorized to write recommendations. So even though I qualified 5 times over, my doctor wouldn't write it, so I had to go and find another doctor, who fortunately I did, Dr. Ayers out of Livonia. Wonderful man, and he's a pain specialist anyway, so he gets the whole point here. Point is if you've got a good doctor and you have a doctor, try to stay with them. Maybe see them, if you can, see them twice a year. If any of you have had a bunch of surgeries like I have, you hate going to the fucking doctor. If I can run from them, I will. So, you know, but that's 14 surgeries later. So the doctor, this bona fide physician-patient relationship is really kind of putting another burden on us that's specific to us and not specific to like the harder drugs like OxyContin, Vicodin, and the likes. Because I can go to an emergency room if I'm having problems, and they'll bust me scripts all day long. And there's no doctor-patient relationship there. You know, they just know I'm in there in a bunch of pain. So this is another burden that's put on us, and there's also included in this HB 4851 is the enclosed lock facility deal here. And now that's not the worst thing in the world in here, because they do have a section here that allows for outdoor grows, but it says as long as it's not visible from the neighbor's adjacent property. Well,
how do you do that?
Right. So my belief is if you can keep your grow indoors, keep it indoors and out of sight, because if the cops can see it, they're taking it, whether you're legal or not. And there's a lot of patients been in trouble for outdoor grows. So just be smart about that. But that's it. That's part of it. And then the other thing is about the transportation of our medicine is included in this HB 4851. They want us to put it in a box like a gun and then throw it in the trunk so it don't go off, I guess. Right.
Spontaneously combust in the van, and then
so they want us to have a lot more restrictions and want us to follow these new restrictions they're putting on us when in fact the state hasn't even enacted the law properly. So why are we, you know, we're dealing with this when they haven't enacted the law? This is crazy. Yeah. But this is reality. This is what we are dealing with now. So point is about this whole transportation of cannabis. It ain't no freaking, as long as you ain't smoking it while you're driving with it, you know, what's the harm of it being in your jar on the seat next to you or in the back seat, you know? It's not going anywhere. Well, anyways, they're trying to change that, so we got to throw it in the trunk, and if it's not in the trunk, then we get arrested for having cannabis like we're criminals. So keep that in mind. That's the other one.
You're on your own. You're on your own.
What about Aaron and his smartphone?
But see, that's a good point. Now, when you call your senator and you talk about this, you explain that to him. You know, what about pickup trucks? And this is why bringing this stuff out in the public is good, because we can get an idea of how to counter this. Working collectively together, we do a lot better. Okay, so I'm going to move on here to the next bill, which is HB 4853. And that makes it a felony for us to sell cannabis to a non-patient.
Yeah, that's
not
okay
in the
though.
program. It's already a felony. It's already a law.
It's actually already in the law.
Right. I got you. So point is this is redundant. This can be, you can just go on that point from there. That's a pretty easy one to eliminate. And the next one is
There's more hidden words in that one.
oh yeah, the photo ID thing, but I think that was hidden
part of
inside.
48, the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was part of the first one. But what they want to do is
2 pictures.
we'll have to go take photos like you'd use for a passport, and then 2 photos, as a matter of fact, and then take them to the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, give them the photos, so when they make our cards up, the photos will be on there, and they're good for 2 years.
And your caregiver's photo too.
That's just another thing for us to have to do. They can't even get us the cards in time, let alone put a freaking photo to it.
Right.
Two.
So instead of 4 months now, we can expect 6.
Although I personally think that having a photo on the ID is a good thing.
I would like photo, but.
Well, I agree with you, but why do they make it
I actually had
us that has to provide the
It's,
photo?
it becomes another hoop. It's like having a voter registration card. It's a poll tax, right?
Right.
Yeah, so,
going out there and Couldn't they use the picture from our driver's license? Isn't that like already? Is it?
I think there's two pictures, yours and your caregivers.
What was that, Mark?
There's two pictures on that one, yours and your caregivers.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing, they put the caregiver photos. But let me keep this going here, so that we can get this done here. Here's this other bill, which was the transportation thing, which is at HB 4856. Both to transport usable marijuana in a vehicle unless it is enclosed. So what they wanted, this bill would make it a misdemeanor, punishable by imprisonment for up to 93 days and a fine of up to $500, or both, to transport usable marijuana in a vehicle unless it is enclosed in a case that is either carried in the trunk or in the, or if the vehicle does not have a trunk, it is otherwise inaccessible from the interior of the vehicle. So this, that whole, the thing we just talked about, is crazy talk.
Yeah.
They also have,
So if I hide it under the car, they're gonna try to say I'm transporting.
That's not in there.
Right.
In the tire. So what they want me to tape
one of the
under my
things that's,
wheel with?
right, I got you. So this is why I'm telling you, this is important. The other thing that they have buried in these bills is the transportation of plants in here. And it's, oh, let me find that one. They had it, let me find the exact word here.
I think it's in that last bill
Get a bungee cord.
that you mentioned.
I think it's basically only the caregiver and the patient can be in the car, and it has to be in an enclosed lot.
Yeah, I got it right here. It says plants could permissibly be transported by vehicle only if the new location is to be permanent one and only the card holder growing the plants is in the vehicle. Meaning, if your girl's with you or your mate's with you, you gotta go drop off some plants or you wanna go buy yourself some plants, then it would be against the law because they're in the car with you. That's crazy talk. What if you get sick while you're driving and someone has to drive you? I mean, these are real, and from a patient's point of view, these are pretty honest.
What if you're a blind patient, right?
Okay, so hold on. I'm gonna take the questions in a minute, but let me kind of finish running
These
through
should be
this.
questions that we should be calling the senators and these
Yeah,
people in
but
Lansing.
what I'm getting at is, let me run through this and then we'll go through the questions. So, what you have on the other sheet, the single sheet with all the senators listed there, figure out who your senator is, and if you have a Democratic senator, you need to work on them hard. Actually, I'd like to get a group of us next week to go up to Lansing and talk to the senators, the Democrats, because if we can get them to hold the line, this doesn't pass. And there's no reason the Democrats should be voting with the Republicans to screw us. There's no reason. As a matter of fact, there's every reason for them to vote with us and support us to screw the Republicans. Because they're jacking the Dems left and right now, and they're pushing through bills that are just pissing the Dems off. And we need to kind of play on that to get the Dems to hold the line.
There's no Republicans that support us?
There are a few,
Very,
but
very
like one
few.
or two.
Yeah, very
What day are you
few.
thinking, Dan, next week?
Yeah.
We can work on that, but the point is, this is something that's really important. It's something you have to all, you can find these MPP, the MPP handouts I gave you, you can find these online at mpp.org. And just go to their states, they have a section of the states. So, make sure we stay abreast of what's going on here, because this is really, really important. And like I said, there's been no direction coming from any of the so-called organizations that that advocate for us to go up there and protect ourselves. As a matter of fact, people, like I said, people have been discouraged from going up there. Well, that's bullshit, because this is our law, this is for us, and there's many of us, like myself and Lou, that have put 10 or more years in here to make sure that we had a good law, so that sick people, you know, from a cop's point of view, it makes me sick to think that an MS patient would get handcuffed again, that a patient with glaucoma will get caged up again for having cannabis. And right now, we've managed to stop that. These laws will change that again and make it so that everybody's vulnerable again. And this is what we have to stop. So that's the really, really important stuff that's pressing right now. Then I want to go over a couple quick things here regarding the laws we have right now. One, make sure you're always within your plant count. Don't go over any cutting that is in a substrate, whether it's got roots or not. If it's in a substrate or a daisy or a cloning machine, it's a plant under Michigan law. So say you have, you're legal for 24 and you have 36 because some of your clones aren't going to make it. Well, those extra plants that you have will now make you a felony, and they will charge you under the Michigan law, just like you didn't have a card. So you're charged with felony manufacturing of how many plants you're over. So that's,
I had a question about that. Like, by me being a patient, I'm able to grow 12. So if
Yes.
I grew my 12, then I have, okay, the 12 grew, I picked them, they're drying. Now I started my other 12. That's still,
no, because those are dry, but
That's
here's,
legal.
that puts you over your
And that
limit in
puts
terms
you
of
on the
weight.
weight.
Now, if the smart thing to do, and especially caregivers, keep this in mind, do the perpetual garden.
Yeah.
Harvest every couple of days or once a week a few plants instead of 30 at one time. Because you're gonna harvest 30, you're gonna end up with 60 to 80 ounces. And then if the cops happen to show up at that time, they will charge you with them 60 to 80 ounces. Trust me, there's a couple out west in western Michigan that just went through this. They just harvested, they were drying and curing and had it all in the process. The cops showed up and now they're felons. So, you know, the perpetual garden is the way to go. Keep a few in clone, some in veggie, and then some in bloom, and then so when you're taking your bloom down, you're not going over. Try to keep that in mind. And also, an enclosed lock facility in the house does not include your freaking living room and your front door as your enclosed facility. Legally, it should be, but it doesn't. So what you gotta have is a separate room, either a bedroom, or build a box in the basement, or whatever you're gonna do that has locks on it, and that supposedly you can only access. So just make sure you're doing that and don't consider your house as your locked and closed facility, because over the last couple of years, I've heard so many crazy people talking about this law and how you can do it and what you can get away with. And it's gotten everybody in trouble.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is not let you guys get in trouble, because we have a good law, like I said. So keep in mind, enclosed lock facility, I don't recommend those outdoor grows, because if they can see it, they can take it. And the other thing is usually the guys and the gals with the money that can fly around looking for plants are the feds. So if they're flying around looking for it, you have no safety. So keep that in mind. And then the clone thing, remember that, anything in a substrate is considered a plant. It goes against your count, your weight. When you're driving, and then, trust me, this breaks my heart too, no smoking and driving anymore, because what they're doing now, they're charging patients with driving under the influence. In some counties, that's a $13,000 to $15,000 offense by the time you're done paying.
You can't
Here
afford it.
in Wayne County where I live, it's about an $8,000 offense. So I suggest if you know, and this is kind of an American tradition, like drinking a beer and driving. Forgive me, I'm a cop, but hey, it's just the way it is. It's America. That's what we do.
We all have those subdivisions.
So be careful of that. No roaches in the ashtray. Don't keep them things
throw
in
them
there.
out.
They're not
Use
worth
them
it. Smoke
tips.
them up, throw them out the window.
I use a crutch.
Eat 'em.
That's what I'm
about
saying.
field
They
tests?
have a field test now that they can test you on the spot for to see if you're not.
They don't have anything that's working real good.
I heard they have something they can test up to 6 hours.
Well, yeah, but it's like, well, what they're gonna do
You
is they're
would
gonna
test
arrest
me
you.
after Tuesday?
Right.
Okay, as far as I know, there's no widespread use of any swabbing kind of a thing that they can use on the highways right now. What they have to do, or they should be required to do, is show impairment before the arrest. The Court of Appeals just ruled recently that they don't have to show an impairment. They just have to prove that we had active THC in our system. And if you're a heavy smoker like myself or a patient,
Always.
this is going to be in my system for 3 months.
Sure.
You know, I'm always driving.
Right, for life.
Right, so, you know, it's a big issue that's gonna go up to the Supreme Court, but here's the point, another thing about this. A lot of these attorneys have been pushing these crazy cases through, and they should just drop them. The courts are not our friends right now.
Yeah.
And for us to be trying to run up there and get some relief from the courts, it's not gonna happen, and the attorneys knew it, and they didn't do anything, instead they went to Lansing and did this to us. So, I'm pretty pissed about all that, but be careful about your smoking and driving, no roaches in the ashtray. The other thing, when you're carrying your meds, don't keep them with your paperwork. Don't keep them in your purse with your wallet and ID. Make sure it's just separate, so if you do get stopped, you can pull your paperwork and stuff out, you got no surprises. Because from a police officer's point of view, when you stop someone and they're going through their purse, you're looking in there. Because you want to make sure they ain't getting a gun, you want to make sure they ain't going to hurt you.
Right.
And if they see a big jar in there, a bag in there, someone's going to be asked to step out of the car. So just keep that in mind if you don't want the trouble. The other thing is, if any of you are contemplating dispensaries or something to push the law, don't right now. I don't recommend it right now. I recommend holding your ground for a second, being cool with the patient caregiver thing right now, and let this law work until we get a change in this administration up here in Lansing and in these courts, because they're not our friends. There's been several cases of police officers actually not following the law and breaking the law instead of patients and caregivers, so they can make the arrest and then enforcing it through the courts, because they know the courts are going to be friendly to them. So be real leery of all those encounters. If the police show up at your house and they don't have a warrant, there's a couple things you got to do to protect yourself, and you have a right to do this. One, you don't have to answer the door. If they had a fucking warrant, they'd kick it in. So if you see them and you don't want to answer the door, don't answer it. Because the first thing when you open that door, they're going to say, smell pot. And then they're going to ask you to step out of your house, and they'll hold you on your porch. They'll go get a warrant, or they'll go in, either or. And then from there, you've got a boatload of troubles just because you opened your door. Now, if you do want to talk to them, you can go out the back door, locking it behind you, then go engage them in your front yard and talk to them out there. Or you can talk to them through a window upstairs. But you don't have to answer the door. You don't have to talk. If they're knocking, you don't have to answer. Just be leery of that kind of thing happening. Well, other than that, staying on top of, knowing the law, getting ready to be active here regarding our senators, because we've got to deal with this now. Following law, staying in just do your best to do your best to follow the law. But the other is, please contact your senators, even if they're Republican and they're anti. Contact them, let them know you're there.
Dan,
we'll take some questions now. Go ahead.
Can I add something real quick? Regarding traffic stops. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that a police officer cannot escalate a traffic stop without probable cause. Don't give them probable cause, all right? If they've stopped you for speeding, take the ticket and count your blessings. Yeah. It'll be a an expensive lesson not to speed again.
Yeah,
right?
well, let me expand on that. Actually, they lowered the bar from probable cause for search of your vehicle. It's a reasonable suspicion now. A reasonable suspicion is a lot lower bar than probable cause. So if you get stopped on the highway, and I'll give you guys a terrible example of me not listening to my own advice. A buddy of mine is in the rolling paper business. So he wanted to do some southeast tour, like cut down from Tennessee, Georgia, and all those areas, and hit some of the stores that he vends to. Well, we had this bright idea. We put 5,000 packs of papers in there, a bunch of scales, and 21 stinky joints. How far do you think we got before they took our joints and fucking had us shaking on the road? We got one day. The very next day, we got stopped in Tennessee, because we decided to have a smoke driving through a construction zone. Not very smart. So, anyways, we got stopped. They asked to search the car, of course, no. And always say no to searching your car. And if they say why, say because you want to hold on to your constitutional rights. What little we have left, say no. Because every time you say yes, you make it a little weaker for all of us. So, of course, we tell them no. So now what they do, when you tell them no that you don't want to search the car, they can have you step out of the car or have you sit in the car if they want. And then they'll bring a dog. And then they'll walk the dog around the car. And anybody that knows about dogs and how the handlers work, you can make a dog hit on anything just by the way you move your foot or something to make the dog hit on your car. So they'll bring the dog out, they'll walk it around, they'll say the dog smells something, and they're just going to search your car anyways. But make them go through the process. So that's the driving thing. A little more expanded on that, but I'll tell you what happened in Tennessee. We were fortunate that one, I was retired from the police department, and it wasn't me that had the joint in my hand. And the other was the police officer. One of the police officers was from Ann Arbor, so he wasn't so terrible on the issue until he called his little lieutenant, who came and chewed me out. And this was pretty funny because he's chewing me out, and he says, "What are you doing hanging around with him? He promotes marijuana." And Bruce is looking at me like, "What? Me?" So anyway, they let us go, and that cost him $4,000 by the time he was done and over with. They let us go with our papers and our scales and stuff, and they had every right to take all that. They could have taken it under paraphernalia because we had cannabis with it, but they didn't. So they just took a bunch of his money. So there's a little example of I don't recommend going through that, because that's no fun. My knees were shaking on the highway in Tennessee, and I'm thinking, who the hell do I know down here to get me out? I didn't, so, but luckily we got on our way, and we went and finished our trip, and we were able to get back home. So on that note, let's go back to the questions, and let's keep this moving.
Where does one find out about the laws and so we can be compliant? Our normal meeting?
Well, either through the normal meetings, or you can go online to the Michigan.
If you go on our site, thcp.com under patients info, there's links and stuff like that.
And
I know on our
if you
site
go to
it is.
Google and type in
MMA.
MMP,
Yeah.
Oh,
Michigan MMA, isn't it?
No,
Medical Marijuana Act.
That'll take you to Comor's site.
Yeah.
MMA.
That's where it's gonna take
I'm
you.
sorry, it's MMA. It's
Yeah,
MMA.
Medical
But-
Marijuana
but-
Act.
Go there, but there's another website called qualifyingpatient.org, and that was put together by an attorney named Greg Schmidt out of Saginaw, who is unlike some of these other cats you see running around here right now. He's actually a good guy. So that's qualifyingpatient.org, and that'll get you the information you need. And okay, next.
I was wondering, they come around with the dog, they hit on your car, they search your car, there's nothing in there, what can you do?
Hassle you.
What can you do as a citizen
Yeah.
after that happens?
Yeah.
You could make a complaint if you want, and trust me, making a complaint at the police department is never no fun, because they're saying, anyways, they try to discourage you from doing it. You can make a complaint. I don't know, there's not a lot you can do, because the officer's gonna lie. So it's just the way it is.
So he obviously screwed you though. I mean, no.
As far as you were talking about senators and all that stuff, I just wanted to let everyone know on June 4th, Senator Beda will be at the Clinton Macomb Library for a coffee hour.
And he's a really cool guy
He's
because we
real
met
cool,
with him.
real nice to talk to, so come out.
When was that?
Yeah.
June
Biden's
4th.
Democrat. So, but you know, the interesting thing about these senators, by the way, they really don't know a lot about cannabis. They just think the only way you can consume it is smoking it, and
Right.
of course, you know, that's far from reality. So by you talking to your senators, and when you engage them, please try to stay on subject. You know, don't start talking about the bigger drug war impacts overall, or the fact that we have 2 million people in prison, or 6.5 million under some kind of jurisdiction of the courts and prisons. So, no, don't go into all that. Just stay right on your little talking points. Take some with you if you have to, and then ask them to support the patients and the caregivers. Support the people.
The key is spend a couple minutes talking, get it done, be brief, and give them the information and get out.
And show up to these coffee hours. And
He was surprised that we had 6 people.
yeah, Carol and I, my wife and I went to one by accident when we found out, and it was like 6 people there. And then we went to the last one, which was last week, and there was 6 of us there. So, plus the rest of the people that were there. So show up to these coffee hours so that these people can see who we are, and they can learn and educate
Post that
them.
up on the website?
Sure.
Yes, we educated him about capsules, though.
Yeah, and that was good, because he was one of these senators that was on the hearing for glaucoma.
That's all he talked
He didn't know about capsules and
Right.
cookies and edibles.
That's
and
all he
edibles.
talked about was the glaucoma,
So that,
too.
all that helps, and most of the senators, even the ones that are anti, will at least give you an ear.
Sure.
And what's nice is usually when we go to, well, every time we go to Lance in the lobby, I always make sure there's enough handouts for everybody. So when you leave your senator's office, you're leaving them a little package with a little bit of information that's all factual and credible. 1, don't bullshit people when it comes to this law when you're going to lobby, because you don't have to. The facts are on our side, the science is on our side. Use the facts and the science that we have, and we win every time. That's how we managed to win at the polls all the time. We never lost an election, because we stuck to the facts. And that there's, and like I said, you'll hear people talking nowadays that they just, who knows what the hell they're talking about. They're supposed to be advocating for us. So they're screwing us up. So by you guys getting smart, staying abreast of these laws and what's going on, and engaging with your elected officials, it's the only thing that's going to save our asses right now, because the main organizations in this state right now are run by attorneys who want these to pass. And I talked to one of the guys, not one of the attorneys, but one of the people that was supposedly this patient's advocacy group that went up to Lansing to do this to us. He says to me that, oh, these bills are fine. and I want them to pass. Like, you're supposed to be an advocate for us, fool. And, but that was his answer. He wanted them to pass. But that's one of our advocates that wants us to deal with this shit. But he's not a patient or a caregiver. He's a business owner. So that's where I came up with this theory. The reason they don't want us up there is because they want this shit to pass so that they can get that dispensary bill at our expense. So just be aware of that. And then, okay, Missy? I'll get to you in a second.
Two of those bills are in direct contradiction to each other, the zero tolerance for driving and only the patient can transport the plant. Isn't it kind of a catch-22? They are out to get us.
Well, yeah, that's what that's why
They're all catch-22.
This package of bills is the blankets that they sent to the natives, just know that this is what this is, so that's why that was all there.
That was the first thing that jumped out at me when I read those.
Okay, and then there was a question back there?
I have a question about, I do security from time to time, and I need to have concealed weapons.
Right.
Okay. What do you know about that? From what I've heard, I'm not supposed to be able to have one if I have a medical card.
Well, there's been kind of a, at this time, I don't know if there's that particular, there is a question on the CCW application that says, ask if you're an illegal drug user.
And we're not.
We're not.
Have you used marijuana, or have you, or do you use marijuana?
No.
Is that on the CCW?
No. A specific question.
Well, so there, now here's what you can do to be honest and not lie on that. You can kind of let your card expire when your CCW comes back up, and when they ask you, you can say, no, I'm not a patient anymore.
Actually,
illegal at that point.
We
You
use
didn't violate
cannabis,
any laws.
marijuana is slang.
Right.
That was a government
But
term.
the point is that's a good question, and that's kind of an ongoing thing. I personally don't have a CCW, so I don't know, what the answer to that
Don't
is.
use
There
both
is
at the
also
same
this
time?
issue too. Now, if you're a caregiver and you're sharing a building with another caregiver that puts you over the 100 plant threshold, if you've got firearms in there and the feds come in there with them, they're going to take you under a federal firearms violation there. So they're actually, with some of these administrative moves that they've done, they're actually disarming us and putting us at in a lot of risk because we're not supposed to have our firearms near our medicine. But to them, they consider it an illegal substance. So the point is firearms in the plants right now are a touchy issue. Don't have your firearms right inside your grow box or near the grow box. If anything, separate it, put it far enough away so that they do find your firearms. They can't say they were there to protect your plants. They're there to protect ourselves. Fuck the plants. Grow another one. But the point is that's a good question. And the firearms, like I said, keep them away from your grow. If you can, keep them in a separate garage or something. But although I have heard cases out of California where they've gone into people's garages and found their gun and still charged them with violation of the firearms. Well, unfortunately, this is our reality. Well, this is our reality, but hold on, folks. Wait a minute. This is bad, but it ain't the end. I mean, change in America is slow for starters. It took the women 100 years to get the right to vote. Okay, it took us 10 years just to get the right to sit here and talk about this without fearing for our lives. So the thing is it's bad. Sure, this is all bad, but we as the people, we have the power. And the power is us gathering like this, getting some knowledge on the subjects, and then engaging the system that we all fucking hate. But, we don't have much choice. And it can work for us. And the law we do have in place right now is the people's law. So there is some hope here. I'm not totally sold that we're so down the river yet, but it's just a matter of us stopping this now. Because like I said, the two main organizations are run by attorneys that want these to go through.
Well, yeah, that's business for them.
Right, which is terrible for us.
Yeah.
So.
Dan, I understand that they've allowed for the use of tasers if you have a CCW.
Yes, that just passed.
What, with your law enforcement experience, how do the feds view a taser as far as?
It wouldn't be a firearm. It's not a firearm.
Then folks, if you're worried about protecting yourself, get your CCW, get a taser.
Yeah, and actually you can have a taser at home, I think. I gotta check this to make sure I'm right. But I think you could have a taser at home when you're legal. I think it only becomes illegal when you take it out of the house, but it's been a while since I had to deal with that. So look that up. There's another option though. Actually, I was thinking like
Concealed.
spears and bows and knives and, you know, ninjas. I didn't know what the hell to do, because I live in the city. I retired from the city. I love the city, but it's the city.
Yeah.
And you have to be really pragmatic about all this. So, you know, there's these issues that are going on. But the point is just be smart about all this with your firearms. And that was a good question, by the way.
Speaking of, you know, our future, what do you make of the Canadian company that went and bought the mine up north to grow medically,
They're doing pharmaceutical herbs and plants right now.
Yeah, well, the one problem with that group there was they went and they lobbied for more restrictions on us so that they could get the business. So they're bad news because they didn't come in here and say, hey, implement the law properly for these people. No, they wanted to put another doggone restriction on us in order for them to have their thing.
they've invested millions of dollars?
Well, that's fine, but it's, you still can't screw all of us because you want to make some money. And that's what they're trying to do, and from what I've seen. And generally, when you can pick something up through reading or through your research and stuff that's not right out there in public, that's generally when I start to smell a rat.
Yeah.
So this company, like I said, before they even announced they were doing this, they were already lobbying to put more restrictions on us. So they're a bad idea too.
They kind of opened it up undercover. The sheriff didn't even know what was going on.
They're not growing in there yet.
Yeah, I know, they don't have to yet.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't like that idea. Well, they can grow, but don't do it at our expense. Once again,
Right.
you know, all these businesses and the likes are trying to do things, but they're trying to do it at our expense. And so we got to be on top of that. So, okay, back there.
Yeah, do you know what the current laws are on rifles and shotguns? Like if you were caught, if the cops came into your house?
Right. Well, that's what I was talking about with the firearms. Don't keep them by your grow. You know, if you have a gun safe, keep them in a gun safe in a different part of the house.
But do they have to be registered?
Well, no, because not all firearms in America are going to be registered, because a lot of firearms were passed through families and the likes that came, you know, there's firearms I have that I got from other Marines years ago. So,
What's the answer?
well, the answer is just keep it in a safe spot separate from your plants.
But you need to have them registered.
No, you don't. No.
You gotta be registered to buy them. To buy it.
No.
Right, but hear me out for a second regarding that. Now, if you own your firearms and they're at your house, as long as they're not stolen, you shouldn't have an issue if they're not in your box. When you go to buy firearms is when that becomes an issue. So the best thing right now, like I said, is to keep them separate. Don't put your firearms where your grows at so that they can do a nexus there and screw you a different way. So some people have just been getting rid of their firearms, and if for anybody that likes to hunt or has a background like mine, that's like cutting off my fucking right hand. So that's right. So that's something that we're dealing with right now, though. And really, none of any of these firearm cases regarding patients and caregivers haven't run through the courts yet that I'm aware of, and hopefully none of them will.
Don't forget, folks, if you're within your limits, they're not. My encounters with law enforcement have been that they've always behaved properly. I'm not saying that they're all going to do that, but every encounter that I've ever had with a cop, they always behaved the way they were supposed to. They followed the law. They didn't try and make stuff up.
Because they're not above it, that's why.
But hold on a second regarding the police now. Now, the police, if you look like you're a nice-looking guy, a white guy at that, then it's going to work that way. But if you're a person of color, and I mean a hippie or a Mexican or African-American, we get treated different. We don't get the same treatment as other people, but that's not everywhere, and it's not rampant. The point is just be careful, and if you do get stopped or you do encounter law enforcement, the best thing, and I even do it, is yes sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes ma'am, no sir, and leave it at that. If they start wanting to, you know, like I said, if they want to start asking you a bunch of questions, then you have the right to refuse to answer questions. You have the right against self-incrimination. So, you know, just all this stuff, these are just little things you got to be aware of, but it helps you to stay on your toes. And I don't want to see anybody be going to jail for being a patient or a caregiver in this state. Because one, it's a waste of my tax dollars, and two, it hurts you, well, first of all, it hurts you as a patient. Like I said, handcuffing sick people is far different than handcuffing a thug. There's a big difference there, but you get treated the same by the cops if that happens. So just be mindful of all that. And then Paul back there?
Have your guns in a lock safe, separated from any other lock safe that has your medicine in it. Keep them in separate facilities, and they cannot say you were guarding your grow operation with a firearm. That's felony firearm use if you're guarding your plants with a gun beside the door.
Good advice.
Keep them in a lock safe. Keep your pot in a lock safe in your house, even in your house. The more you lock it, the more they like it.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing about the pot issue. You know, the plants and all that being in enclosed facility is one thing, but our meds itself, like we have a tray laid out, you know, just so, because, well, it's one thing we use every day. But so it becomes a question of, you know, I wouldn't leave a bunch of meds out where the family can get to it or something, because there's a case up in Kalkaska County, a kid got caught smoking a joint, told the sheriff why he would tell him this, that he got it from his dad's medical marijuana stash. So the sheriffs went there, raided him, and now the father is being charged because he was over his limit. He would have been in trouble anyways because of his stupid ass son. Who's going to give up their dad? Yeah, right. We need to know that kid's name, so if he ever shows up,
just tell us that everything will be okay. That's what they tell us.
But the point is you don't give up. It's back under control. But what I'm getting at is, if you have a lot of excess, or if you say you're a caregiver and you're allowed your 15 ounces, maybe keep a half ounce out and keep the other 14 and a half in the locked up space. So if the cops do show up, all that meds isn't available to everybody in the family. So that's just another thing to be aware of.
But then you don't leave your prescription medications laying out for everyone to see and stuff. So you would have to treat this the same way. It's just like a prescription that you pick up at Walgreens.
Yeah, I understand these 4 bills here that haven't passed in the Senate. A couple of them, I understand, need a 3/4 majority.
All of them.
All 4 of them.
All of them.
But they're
running
full
through as a package,
Republicans.
so it does require a 3/4 vote. They didn't do them separately because they wouldn't go. So they tried to jam it down this way to screw us all at once, as opposed to 4 separate bills. So they all got to be opposed. And like I said, they only need 2 Democrats to vote with them to get this to be a supermajority, to have a 3/4 vote. The Republicans do. They only need 2. So that's why I say we need to work on the Dems, work on them hard. And unfortunately, one of the guys that was up there advocating for us, he's told his Senate Democrat, his Democratic senator, to vote yes on these bills. But that same senator is my senator. So I'm gonna, and actually the senator our senator is Coleman Young Jr. is our senator. Is the point. But I've had many discussions with him, and the last time I went up there, he says to me, "Are we still having this discussion?" Hell yeah, we are, because these bills are coming. So when we go back up there, most of the Dems are familiar with us because we've been working on them slowly, but not on these particular bills. They've only been hearing from our advocates. So we got to make sure we get up there, like I said. So I'd like to do something next week. We do it fast. We get up there. We're well prepared. Make sure you look good, and let's go get them.
One quick question.
Okay.
When you took the tour for the papers, you said you were with your friend Bruce. Is that the gentleman that your gentleman friend that does the papers? Bruce, is that the guy that does raw papers? Yeah, out of Indiana. Is that the guy
Bruce
that does?
Reed? Do you know him?
He makes raw papers?
No, he used to do Randy's wired rolling papers. Okay. And then he had this specialized line of papers he'd do that were pretty cool. And actually back in 2001, this was before I hooked up with the Leap guys, and when I was kind of on my own, I had some rolling papers made up for police officers for drug law reform, and on the back of them, they were hemp rolling papers, and they were pretty thick too, though. But on the back of the packages, I put one was the First Amendment, and then the second series we did had the 10th Amendment. So we were just doing some different things. But and then shortly after that, I hooked up with Leap, and then they said no more rolling papers. So, but I was having fun. But yeah, that's Bruce out of Indiana. He's a good guy. His companies they have supported us through every campaign. They've donated to everything, been real good with us. Even when we had I don't know if you made it out to Ann Arbor over the Hash Bash weekend, if you made it out to the hotel, well, Bruce was nice enough to rent 4 tables from Michigan Normal to put an extra $800 into their pockets. So that's the kind of guy that, you know, so I try to work with people that support us and that have been supporting us. And what we got to really be looking on the lookout for right now are people that, like I said, that are advocating for us but have their own agendas, and we're not on the list. So, you know, that's why we're here today. So, any more questions? There's one back there.
I just want to make something clear. If we can't go physically to support this, we can call our senator on the phone and tell him we don't want these things passed.
Yes, and you can also email them. Email works good too, because now there's some written communication. And a lot of the Republicans that don't want to hear about these bills, they ask directly, are you in my district? And if you're not, go talk to your own senator. That's some of the responses I've gotten from a doggone senator. What's that?
We can call another district?
Sure. Yeah,
Call every one of them.
We go to Lansing, we bang on all their doors.
Okay. Are we aiming more at Republicans or Democrats?
Democrats.
If you have a Republican senator, which most of you probably have out here, call them anyways. Call them anyways, email them, but make sure you've got your information together. Because they're going to be kind of short and sharp with you, so just be prepared for that.
If you can get them on the
Yeah,
phone.
actually, if you go to the MPP site, they'll have mostly some form letters already down, where you can just write a
little bit. That's the
Yeah,
marijuana
yeah.
policy project?
What's that?
MPP, is that what you said, marijuana policy project?
Yeah, MPP, marijuana policy
You can also
project.
go to the ASA website that also has templates, Americans for Safe Access.
Right,
Yeah.
but MPP right now has the most direct information
For our
regarding
state.
these bills, so that's why I'm directing you guys there. Not because they fund me, but they have funded all these campaigns that we've been through, MPP funded.
Right.
So, except, they funded the Traverse City one, but that took a minute.
Would
Back
it do
there?
us any good to get hold of change.org and start a petition through them?
Well, yeah, that would help.
Too late.
I think Joe Kane started one a while ago, but because he's managed to piss off everybody, he didn't do very good. Then that seems to be the problem right now is the group, at least from my view of it, is somewhat fragmented. There's a little click here, there's a click there, there's a click there, and then all these clicks go up and they say they represent me and they represent you, and they don't represent shit. But point is we need to somehow
Represent ourselves.
well, not just represent ourselves,
We'll come together.
still maintain some relationships with these other different groups.
Oh, yeah, got you.
So that, you know, that we're like a loose network of groups. Because currently, there's no one that's been able to bring everybody under one umbrella. I'm hoping that someday we can do this as a community and come together and be together for the right reasons. And then that's on the horizon, it's fastly approaching, because it wouldn't be the first time that we've had to put an organization together from scratch and make it successful. And you can look at LEAP to see how things can go, or you can look at even Michigan Normal, which me and Lou helps. Lou was one of the founding members there. So, you know, all these other things start out of a necessity, out of a need. And right now we have a need for someone to cover our asses, and that's got to be us. So, you know, don't be surprised if you see a new group formed up, but with me and Lou and a few other people involved, to try to make sure we get everybody back together and cover our asses again.
Is it a possibility to ever endorse somebody to run who has our interest in?
Oh yeah. But you know, a lot of people running for office kind of don't get the cannabis issue. They think the public doesn't support it, and so they won't really come out publicly support us.
Developing our own candidate.
But, oh, yeah, that's an idea too, but if anybody's ever been involved in campaigns and politics, it's expensive.
And it's business as usual, folks. It doesn't matter who's in there. The system is already entrenched. We have to change minds based on the facts and ram the facts. They, like Dan said, they don't know about capsules. They don't know about extracts. They think that we're all puffing it out and that we're all blown out and that we're a bunch of hippie stoners.
Right. Yeah, and he's correct. Actually, there's a, but that's why I said when we go up there, we always look good, we bring good documentation with us, we lead them good, solid, factual information, and that helps us, because it's not the typical stoner, you know, we're not, you know, it changes their perception of us, especially when we get a good group of patients together to go, and they realize that it's a patient, these are real people, these laws are gonna have a real negative impact on people, and we need to let them know that, so.
I think we're gonna have to have Dan come back.
Yeah.
You know, what I want to say here, though, is really I want to thank you all for being here, because it's all of us that make this work. There's no one individual that's going to make this all happen. It's all of us collectively working. And that's how we managed to accomplish what we did in the previous 10, 12 years, was working together. Set aside the ego, set aside whatever the hell you're trying to do it for the patients, do it for the right reasons.
So these guys pioneered, and look at what,
right. So
what
I
they
want to say
produced.
thank you for being here, because without you, there's no us, and there's no law, and the likes. And
One
so,
quick question, you mentioned dispensaries, and since I'm new, it's like